Taiyo no Oji Orsu no Daiboken. Sorry, there is no foreign international English title for this one. This is one of the first, if not the very first film by Isao Takahata, which you might know better for his work under Studio Ghibli. He was recently passed away, sadly. Like I said, you might know this director much better for Grave of the Firefly, or Pompoko, or My Neighbors the Yamada. A whole slew of animations he did. That's most certainly true. However, this, as I said, it's from 1968, by the way. And it shows it is definitely a production of the 60s in all the best and the worst kind of meanings, as it were, because it has a few really good animated scenes and a few other scenes that are not animated at all. Essentially, you can tell precisely when they run out of budget. Regardless, it was interesting to see this, especially since it is pretty rare. Again, it is a Japanese animated feature from 1968. How many of those have you seen? My point exactly. It's really a simple bog standard hero's journey for the most part, for the first half to be precise, and there isn't much to it. However, I can get a kick just by trying to summarize what the plot is to you. So it starts off with this future boy Conan prototype kid fighting off a bunch of angry wolves, and then he fumbles upon a giant, stone giant that is, and he extracts Excalibur from his shoulder. It is very obviously Excalibur and a reference to the King Arthur myth. In fact, for some strange reason, even though the main character's name is Ols, the Italian version of the title says that his name is Valiant, Prince Valiant, which confuses me because he still refers to as Ols in the Italian subtitles, so I don't know what's going on there, but it's quite baffling circumstance of the Italian translation, but regardless. So, he gets the sword, right, and then the opening credits kick in, and as soon as the opening credits end, his bear cub sidekick comes running towards him and he tells him that he's dead. His father is about to die. You know, he just waited patiently for the end of the opening credits to be the inciting incident, as it were. So Old Man Exposition exposes to his son that he has to defeat a demon lord because he's the chosen one, apparently, and whatnot. So he tracks down one of the demon lord's henchmen, which is a giant fish that's tormenting a nearby village of fishermen. He defeats the fish and then he starts living in the village. And then something interesting happens. The film gets completely, entirely hijacked by a new character. Enter Hilda, the girl with the most vacant expression in existence. It is so vacant, in fact, that for the most part I've given it for granted that she was blind, but no, she apparently was just drawn like that, with the most vacant expression in existence. And I think that's supposed to inform us visually that she isn't completely human, but it doesn't really do a good job at that. So as it turns out, Hilda, the new de facto main character of this film that's supposed to be all about Holtz, or Prince Valiant, if you will, she is the big bad guy's little sister. So of course she's doing his bidding. And his bidding has to do with getting rid of freaking King Arthur here, so that he can go and destroy the human village unopposed, because apparently he's so scared about this boy that he already defeated once. But nevertheless. So the entire film at this point becomes completely about her own, Hilda's own internal conflict, torn apart between her demon side and her human side, or at least her wish to be human, and surrounded by people that she would care about. So the entire running time at this point is completely dedicated to show us how she interacts with the village people and how she emotionally connects with them, and how she tries not to emotionally connect with them, more importantly, because, again, she has a job to do. And even though this completely undermines the actual main character of the film, in fact, he becomes a background extra in his own story, essentially, because there isn't really much to say about his character. Even though this happens, and it really damages the film as a whole, I will not be lying to you, and I will say to you that this is probably the best part of the film, because it actually has a legitimate conflict, and it has an interesting character that's going through an actual conflict and a character development, however poorly conceived and just hokey it can get, because again, this is a film that was written and made in the 1960s. So the writing will be simple as it can possibly get in that time of period. Regardless, this is the interesting part of the film. Then we get to the climax in which the boy suddenly is the main character again, and he fights off the demon, and he inspires the people of the village, and all together they banish him. And Hilda is also there. Hooray! She does something to save someone relatively unimportant, and that completely redeems her and concludes her own story arc, apparently. Never mind that she tried to kill the boy earlier. I guess she feels bad for it. Nevertheless, oh, by the way, the stone giant from the beginning, he comes back for the climax, helping out, as it was foreshadowed. And then, and this really has me still in stitches by thinking about it, the final shot has the giant casually posing sexily, oh, look at me, as the end sign comes into the front view, and as the good guy characters are running towards the background, but they can't because the giant again is sexily posing and he's blocking their way. So this whole final shot of the film is absolutely hysterical, and it redeems whatever flaw this whole venture has. So yes, I'm glad I've seen it. It is a rare film. It is not deprived of its usual expected shortcomings. Director Takahata was much younger back then. He was yet to hone his own style, and it shows. But even though I am not the biggest fan, I was not the biggest fan of this director, it's still nice to see where his origins lie. And this was one of them. So, I guess I shall conclude this vlog in the sexiest way I can. Take a look at this. Oh. Right then, until next time.